All right, so get ready because on this deep dive, we are diving into the world of Silicon Valley startups with Ben Horowitz and his book, The Hard Thing About Hard Things.
Yeah, so we're ditching those rose-colored glasses and getting a dose of reality.
Absolutely. And I think what's so fascinating is how much his personal story shaped him as a leader. I mean, just imagine growing up in Berkeley with communist grandparents.
How?
And a radical leftist father. Talk about an unconventional upbringing.
Yeah, right. Talk about challenging norms from day one. And you can see that independent thinking throughout his life. Like, even as a kid, he almost gets into this fight, but then ultimately walks away. It shows his commitment to looking beneath the surface and, questioning everything.
Absolutely. And that kind of thinking is probably what helped him navigate the craziness of startup life. And speaking of crazy, can we talk about Coach Mendoza? That first speech where he's like, turn in your shit. I mean, I'm reading it and I'm like, am I laughing or terrified?
Classic Mendoza.
Yeah.
But it's such a good lesson.
Yeah.
Sometimes you need that tough love approach. You need that in-your-face honesty and, those crystal clear expectations. That's a style that really stayed with Horowitz. He learned early on that sugarcoating just doesn't cut it.
It's about being direct even when it's not easy. And speaking of not easy, can you imagine going on a blind date that's so bad they tell you they're too tired to eat the cold steaks?
Oh, man. That story about his wife, Felicia, was rough. But it's amazing how that worst date ever turned into such an incredible relationship. It's funny how life works out, because who would have thought that Felicia answering the phone during that Netscape recruiter call would change everything?
Right. Talk about a sliding doors moment. But here's the thing. Even when that recruiter implied he needed a fancy degree, Horowitz didn't back down. He still landed an interview with Mark Andreessen. And keep in mind, Andreessen was just a kid himself at the time, like 22 years old, practically an infant in Silicon Valley years.
And that resilience, that refusal to take no for an answer, it pops up again and again throughout the book.
Yeah.
It's like Horowitz is telling us, hey, you're going to face setbacks, but how you handle them, that's what matters. And he took that experience and used it as fuel for his journey at Netscape. He dove headfirst into the crazy world of the early internet.
And it wasn't always easy, right? I mean, taking on Microsoft in the browser wars, that's like bringing a knife to a gunfight.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
But, that whole battle with Internet Explorer, it taught him a huge lesson, something he talks about later in the Nobody Cares section.
Yeah.
Basically, it comes down to this. You can't control everything. So focus on what you can control, building an amazing product and a killer company.
Tune out the noise and just get to work.
Exactly.
And that focus is what he took to his next big thing, Loud Cloud. Which, honestly, that could be a whole other deep dive. Near-death experiences, crazy funding rounds, the dot-com crash, even a health scare. Talk about an entrepreneur roller coaster.
It's a masterclass in resilience, right? That whole period just screams euphoria and terror. This is how he describes startup life.
No.
But here's the thing. Even when investors told him starting a cloud company was like smoking crack, he didn't waver.
That's where that market of one idea comes into play.
Exactly. You don't need everyone on board, just that one investor who really gets it. They believe in the vision, they share your passion, and they're ready to take that leap with you.
Easier said than done when it's your company on the line.
For sure. And don't forget, in the middle of all this, his wife's health takes a turn. The IPO is looming, everything's on the line, and he's dealing with all this personal stress too.
It really highlights how important a support system is, not just for the leader, but for the company as a whole.
100%. It reminds you that even when you're building a billion-dollar business, life happens, and having people you can lean on can make or break you.
Which brings us to, I think, one of the core themes of the book, creating a company that's actually a good place to work. He's really serious about putting people first, especially during tough times. Like, his perspective on layoffs is kind of brutal.
He doesn't sugarcoat it, does he? He's basically saying, if you have to let people go, do it fast, be honest, and do it with empathy. No corporate BS, just straight talk and respect.
And it's not just about the people who are let go, it's about the ones who stay. It's about creating a culture of trust where even the hard decisions are made with transparency.
He's also big on constantly learning and developing your team, even when things are tight.
Yeah.
It sounds strange, but investing in your people, even during tough times, it shows them you're all in it together.
That you're going to come out stronger on the other side. And that commitment to his team, you see it in everything he does. From his good product manager / bad product manager document, which is like a masterclass in building great product teams, to his strong opinions on hiring executives.
Oh, yeah, the athletes versus referees thing.
Right.
He's saying, don't just hire someone because they have a fancy resume or worked at a big company. Look for the doers, the ones who can get in the trenches and make things happen. Startup life is a whole different game.
It's all about being adaptable, moving fast, and taking action. And that energy needs to run through the whole company culture.
Absolutely. It's not about ping pong tables and free snacks. It's about respect, accountability, and a shared passion for building something great.
And then there's that one management technique he used that always gets people talking, the $10 per minute tardiness rule. I mean, who charges their employees for being late?
Right. Sounds crazy at first, but it's not really about the money. It's about setting clear expectations, respecting everyone's time, and building a culture of mutual respect. Those little things can really shape a company.
It's about walking the walk, not just talking the talk.
Exactly. And he brings that same direct approach to something that a lot of people don't like talking about: CEO mental health.
He's really open about the toll it takes. You know, the sleepless nights, the weight of those huge decisions. He talks about his own struggles and why it's so important to have people you can rely on, whether it's family, friends, mentors, or even a therapist.
Yeah, it's a really important message, especially because there's this whole myth of the invincible founder. He reminds us that it's okay to not be okay. Asking for help, that's a strength, not a weakness. And that actually leads into one of the most useful frameworks he gives us, the peacetime CEO/wartime CEO idea.
Oh, yeah, right. It's like he's saying, look, there's a time to build consensus and there's a time to make the tough calls, and knowing the difference is everything.
Exactly. A peacetime CEO, they can think long-term, focus on getting everyone on board and empowering their teams. But when there's a crisis, you need a wartime CEO, someone who can make decisions fast, take charge, and navigate the chaos.
And he has this great list of how those two styles are different. Like one example is peacetime CEO strives for broad-based buy-in, but then wartime CEO neither indulges consensus building nor tolerates disagreements. You have to adapt your style to what's going on.
And that takes guts sometimes, because often the best decision is the one no one likes. It might ruffle some feathers or even mean letting go of people you care about.
He definitely doesn't try to make it sound easy. But he also says that courage isn't about just blindly rushing in. It's about getting as much information as you can, even when the pressure is on.
He's all about learning constantly.
Yeah.
You're never going to have all the answers, especially in the startup world. But if you keep learning, absorbing information, and understanding your business better, you'll be ready to make those tough calls when you have to.
So that's about knowing what to do, but how do you actually get a company of hundreds, maybe even thousands of people all moving in the same direction? He calls this organizational design, and he's very blunt about it. He says all organizational designs are bad.
Yeah, which sounds weird at first. But he's really saying that every structure has its downsides. You might make things faster in one area, but then create bottlenecks somewhere else. It's about making conscious choices.
He talks about focusing on communication paths, figuring out which conversations are absolutely crucial for your company, and then building your whole org chart around that.
And that's where processes become so important. He calls them the communication bus of a company, especially as you grow.
It's easy to be like, oh, processes, they kill creativity, they slow us down. But like Horowitz says, when you have thousands of employees, you need clear systems and documentation.
He used the example of hiring new people. It involves tons of different teams, and it's obviously crucial to a company's success. So by creating a really clear process, you make sure it's consistent, fair, and everyone's on the same page. It's about making things clear, not adding unnecessary bureaucracy.
He also challenges this idea of the scale anticipation fallacy, which is this belief that you can just tell if someone will be a good leader at a bigger company.
He says managing at scale is a learned skill, not some magical talent. It's about creating an environment where people can step up, take on new things, and become better leaders as the company grows.
Speaking of leadership, that story about Herb Allen, the investor, always stuck with me. Horowitz goes to him when his company is struggling, their stock is down, and Herb invests.
And it wasn't because of some fancy analysis or market prediction. It was because Herb saw something in Horowitz, that belief, that drive.
It reminds you that sometimes leadership is about those things. You can't really teach that grit, that determination, the ability to inspire even when things look bleak.
And that takes us to his ones and twos idea.
The visionaries versus the operators.
Right. Ones are your big picture people. The strategists, the ones setting the course. Twos are amazing at execution. They make sure the details are taken care of, and the vision actually becomes reality.
And he makes the point that most CEOs are ones. So it's crucial to build a team with strong twos who can balance them out and bring that operational expertise.
Because even the best idea in the world, without execution, well, it's just an idea. It's that mix of vision and actually getting things done that creates something special.
And to keep creating those amazing things, you need a culture of honest feedback. But not the fake compliment sandwich kind.
He's all about being authentic and direct, giving feedback, because you want to see the other person succeed.
Having those tough conversations, but in a way that's supportive and helpful.
Because feedback is ultimately about growth, helping people reach their full potential and do their best work.
And you can see that same commitment to growth in his work with Andreessen Horowitz. They really changed the venture capital game by building a firm that's truly focused on the founders.
They created this whole support system, connecting their companies with experts, resources, even help with marketing. They really go above and beyond.
It just shows that even in a well-established industry like venture capital, there's always room to innovate and try something new.
And sometimes the best way to stand out is to break the rules and build something that truly reflects your values.
So if you're ready to ditch those startup fairy tales and really get into the nitty-gritty of what it takes to build a company, The Hard Thing About Hard Things is a must-read. It's raw, it's honest, and it's full of those hard-won lessons you won't find in a typical business book.
It'll make you question your assumptions, spark new ideas, and give you a whole new appreciation for the sheer hard work and resilience it takes to create something great.
And on that note, we'll leave you with this. What's the hard thing you've been avoiding in your own life or career? Maybe it's time to lean into that challenge and see what you're truly capable of. Until next time, deep divers.